Hello.
Welcome back.
Jinx. Do you say it? Go on.
Today, welcome back to episode 10. We made it. On today's episode, we have our first official Zoom guest, and we welcome Luke Jones.
Yes, Luke Jones is a mindset coach. He is also sober, and he is blending those two things together on his personal journey of helping out men
and dads.
More specifically, fathers get sober and benefit from all the benefits he's getting from being a sober father as well. It's an amazing story, so please stick around. And without further ado, let's get into the show.
Enjoy.
Hello, I'm Bobby.
And I'm Betty.
And this is Dry Waffle. On the 5th of August 2024, we made the decision to take the plunge and go sober. After years of binge drinking, bad decisions, crazy nights, kitchen sessions and close calls, we decided that alcohol was no longer serving a purpose in the lives we wanted to build.
So we're here to share our sober journey with you. Real talk, real stories with no judgment and no bullshit. Just honest chats, proper laughs and probably a few tears and tantrums thrown in too.
Whether you're already sober, sober curious or somewhere in between trying to work out what the hell's going on, you're not alone, and this podcast could be just for you.
So go on, grab a brew, get settled, and let's waffle.
Try waffle.
Hello.
Bonjour. Welcome back. Oh my God, I've just realised something. It's episode 10.
It's episode 10. Woo!
Why are we so excited about episode 10?
We made it. Because they say, oh God, this pillow, sorry. Because they say that, what is it, like something like 90% of podcasts, maybe even higher, fail before the 10th episode.
They don't get past the 10th
They don't get past the 10th episode.
We're here and we're not stopping.
No, we're not.
We're actually not
You're
stopping.
stuck with us.
I didn't think that we'd
do this.
We'd do it, because there was a point when we did like the first two and I was thinking, how are we going to keep talking about this?
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard sometimes, I think, to keep thinking of new ways to reinvent the wheel in a way. Just like, how do you keep saying, oh, we're sober?
Yeah.
But
I don't feel like we're reinventing the wheel. We're just on this crazy journey. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
It's like every week's a new chapter in life.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I was saying. Like, you know, my worry was how we're going to struggle to
Yeah,
reinvent the wheel.
no, yeah,
I mean
yeah,
that, like, how are we
yeah.
going to struggle to keep
Waffling
making
on.
it interesting to talk about the same thing. Yes, well done.
Thank you.
But
Thank you very much.
you know, we do keep doing different things. We do keep going to different like events. Like yesterday, we went to a family event.
Yeah, your auntie's 70th.
Auntie's 70th, and you know, no drink.
No drink.
And actually,
and, quite a lot
answered
of
a few.
conversations about it, didn't we? Though
We did. I think I even said we're doing a podcast.
you did. No one reacted.
We've kept it pretty top secret until now, haven't we?
Yeah.
We sort of just what I'm thinking is
We wanted to see if we got to the 10th episode and then we'd start talking about it.
I was sort of just wanted to rely on the algorithm to take it to who it needed to be taken to. Yeah. Embedded on.
Yeah. Which is happening.
Yeah.
We're growing.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
We are.
Yeah, and it's
And we're enjoying it, aren't we? Like, I think like our mission with this is very much A, it's keeping us accountable.
yeah. Yeah.
B, it's a good, enjoyable experience to do this with you.
It's a creative outlet.
That's a C, I'd say. And D, most importantly, I think, and we touch on this in our topic of the day today, which we'll tell you about in a minute. But I'm very voicey today. It's fun. I think I'm a bit delusional at this point.
What do you mean at this point?
Yeah, true. I forgot my point now. Oh yeah, D is helping people on their journey, because it's hard, and we are two 30-year-olds, although we got called younger this week, which was nice.
We are not 30.
As in, we're in our 30s. Sorry.
Yeah, you said we are two 30-year-olds.
No, so,
I would love to be.
My apologies.
I would love to be a
Yeah.
30-year-old.
I'm
But
35.
I'm slightly older than that.
You're 37.
I said slightly older than that.
And it's hard. And it's hard at our age. And I think we are here to represent people of our age doing this hard thing in life. La 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 la.
I think one thing for me, I try to keep away from the idea that like I haven't got all the answers. I'm not here to preach or really give. I'm not here to give any like solid evidence-based advice other than the evidence base of my own experience.
Yeah.
And obviously everyone's different, so don't take everything. Don't try and get me on anything. This is my journey, and it's your journey.
Yeah.
And your journey is your journey, but hopefully your journey will resonate with our journey, and we can all go on this journey together. Without any legal battles. But yeah. Talking of journeys and missions, we had
so excited.
We had our first Zoom guest on today.
Yeah, we did.
So
we do have. Yeah, they're coming.
They're coming.
They're coming.
What do you mean they're coming? They've already been.
Yeah, but they don't know that because they're at the start of the
journey. Yes, we're introducing it. So yeah, this is our process.
We're so great at this. Yeah, FYI, we record it first, then we do this, and then we can do something else.
Right. Anyway.
Yes, we've got our first Zoom guest on today, who's called Luke Jones, and he is a both personal development and sober coach, who specialises in supporting men and specifically dads on their sober journey.
That's his. You know, they say you've got to have a why, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to have a why, and that's his why. He's a dad. He decided to go sober. He feels it gives him a superpower. He was already a sort of mindset coach, and and from what I gather, he sort of decided that he wants to blend those two together and try and empower specifically men and fathers the same way he's been empowered, and hopefully give them the chance to experience all the benefits that he's benefited from changing his mindset and changing his relationship with the alcohol
and changing his life. Like, he's got a really interesting journey, hasn't he?
And he's a very, very, very nice guy to talk to.
Yeah, lovely. And we're excited about this episode and really hope that everyone enjoys it. And
actually, and there's one thing that I'd like to say as well. I obviously really hope you enjoy this episode. And if there's any other topics you want us to cover, if there's any other, like, because we are still in the process of understanding where we want this podcast to go. We want to make sure that we're bringing different things to the table that are going to benefit. Like, what are we interested in? We're interested in like health and fitness. We're interested in nutrition, mindsets, anything to do with mindset,
personal development, travel, hiking.
Yeah, you know, we want to keep it. We want to keep it as varied as possible. Yeah, we just basically want to get people on that we're interested in. And
we're just really nosy, really, aren't we? And just like finding out about different people and the lives and the journeys and waffling on.
So we're gonna try and find the best guest for you, and who better to start with
than Luke Jones?
I feel like we've just dissed our friends actually from last week that came on.
Yeah, Leah and Liam, we still love you. No, yeah, but it's our first. We said it in that podcast, didn't we? We said, like, you know, they're our friends. They're coming on to, like, you know, dig a bit deeper in terms of like that kind of space for us, and like you know, it was quite. That was actually a bit more of almost an interview for us as well, weren't it? Whereas this is actually someone that's come on, that's sober, that's really he's so passionate about it, as everyone is who's generally on this journey. So it's just been really nice to talk to someone on that level and just learn and you know hear his story.
Hear his story.
Yeah.
So.
Without further
ado.
Oh, wait.
What?
If you enjoy this episode, please give us a follow because we really appreciate it. And subscribe. And then we're also on Instagram and TikTok. So feel free to come along with us for the ride there. And if you're interested in coming on and being a guest, or if you've got any questions for us, or you'd like to share your sober story or sober shout out.
Yep.
Please do. We really love to hear from you. But yeah, without further ado, let's go and talk to Luke.
Try Waffle. Hello, Luke. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks, guys. How are you?
We are very well enjoying the sunshine at the minute, I have to say. It's glorious.
Yes.
Glorious.
Very well. Thank you for coming on to the show today. You are our first proper guest, I suppose.
Oh, that's just mean on our last two.
but they were our friends, you see.
Yeah, they didn't count.
That was and they were actually in the room with us. This is our first Zoom guest. So you
international guest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dry Waffle was gone worldwide.
Oh, amazing. Well, we've both been really looking forward to chatting with you today, Luke. I think it's, as Bobby says, it's really exciting to have like a guest on, and someone that's sober as well, which we'll dig into. But it feels to us like you're a man that's really kind of on a mission in terms of what you're doing currently. And we were just both excited to find out more from you and obviously learn more about you and have a good waffle. So I guess to kick off, do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a bit more about the mission that you're on in your journey so far?
Yeah, cool. Of course. So my name's Luke. I'm a sober coach and I help dads break free from alcohol and step into their full power. That mission has really evolved from a personal wake-up call of mine. So for years I worked in construction and I've always drank regularly. And I lived a life that most would say looked fine on the outside, but inside I just felt stuck, unfulfilled, disconnected really, and just not the man and the father that I wanted to be. And I started questioning my drinking and becoming sober curious. So when I was younger, I used to drink, as you do, just to have a good time with friends. And in the end, the more and more I drank, I was beginning to drink more and more on my own due to being stressed. And then I just ended up self-medicating, and it was just a form of escapism in the end, really. The turning point for me was when my young son said to me, "Dad, are you an alcoholic?"
Wow.
And it really hit me like a brick. And then that was when I knew that something had to change. So for a couple of years, I just tried to moderate and start cutting back. And then at the end of last year, my father-in-law died. He died of cancer, and within 1 year of his diagnosis, he was gone. And he was a really fit and healthy man. And he was 70 years old, but it's still, nowadays it's not that old, is it?
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
And his last words to me was, "Luke, life is short." And when he said that to me, I just thought, right, I'm not going to waste any more of this life. I'm going to make the most of everything. Wow. So that was a big turning point for me. And that's one of the main reasons that I chose sobriety. I completely changed my mindset. And then we moved here to the Isle of Man from Bristol in the UK. So now I coach other men through the same sort of transformation, helping them reconnect with who they really are, take control of their habits and create a life that they're proud of. So that's a very short version of my journey, and that's why I'm on the mission I am.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Luke.
What a journey you've been on as well. It feels like for one, like for your son to turn around and kind of have that moment, that must have been quite like gut wrenching. Like, how did that feel in that moment?
Yeah, it took a while to sink in, really. Because you're only ever really in your own bubble, aren't you? Especially when you're drinking like that as well.
Yeah.
So and it take the odd comment from different people and stuff. You can laugh it off or whatever. But for a lad that was 13 at the time, 12, 13, he would have been at the time, to look at me in the eye and say that in the kitchen when I was just getting another can off the top shelf, I was just like, shit, So, I all of a sudden I saw it through his eyes, and that was, I never really had a rock bottom moment. It was a very grey, I was a very grey area drinker, but it was a build up of many things, but that was one of the main things for me, definitely.
Yeah. I think as well, like you said, I was a grey area drinker. I think that's part of the problem in a way with society, because I think people think that you have to be like rock bottom, lost everything, desperate and that's the only way that you should really stop drinking.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only way people decide to stop drinking. But I think you can, like you say, I think you can just have that bit of an epiphany, a bit of a realization that you know, it's just not what you want anymore. And I don't think you have to be, you know, at your lowest.
Yeah, I think as well that point of what you're saying about like being in a little bit of a bubble when you're drinking as well. That's really interesting because I guess you know me and Bobby, we don't have children, but like that kind of bubble, even in your own home, like you obviously feel comfortable in your own home, and you're not kind of thinking, not that you're not thinking about the impression that yourself has on your children, but almost like you're in that safe space and can be more yourself as well. And I do think that not only happens at home but like out in society, like because even you know, like we were at a family party yesterday and someone said, were you really that bad? And it's like, well, clearly from the outside it doesn't look that way, but you're having your own experience in your little bubble all the time.
Yeah,
exactly. 100%. Yeah, agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So tell us a bit more about kind of your like drinking origin story then, like how you got started and kind of that, you know, how did you kind of start the drink? When was it? Was it early?
Yeah, it was relatively early as you know, obviously we've got a big drinking culture here in the UK. A lot of us start drinking when we're 13, sort of 14. So I grew up in a very small town just outside of Bristol when I started drinking cider, as you do in the West Country of the UK anyway, when I was about 13, 14. And my first memories of drinking are just being sick in a field, drinking rough white cider, you know, like diamond white, sort of. I think we used to drink mega white, it was called, this rough white cider. You know, you could get a bottle for about £2, and we'd just be drinking that in these fields and rolling around being sick. But it gave me that confidence, you know, and it made me feel part of the group, part of the tribe, if you like.
I could definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
I was quite a nervous, quite shy kid when I was younger. I definitely didn't feel like I was part of the group or, you know, one of the guys. But when I drank, it just made me feel so much more confident, so much less bothered about any like stick that I used to get off anybody, or, you know, just give me a bit of a superpower, really. That's what I felt like at the time.
Exactly. That's exactly what it does. Yeah. That's why so many people turn to it, don't they? And you want to be part of the group as well. You know, everyone starts drinking. You don't want to be left out. You don't want to be the black sheep or whatever. So you start drinking. There was also, you know, a lot of drink in my house as well. A lot of drink and drugs. And obviously, growing up in the 90s, there was quite a big rave scene. We used to go to a lot of free parties.
Yeah.
And that really did set the foundation for, you know, for what was to come, if you like.
Yeah.
So after school and after college, I went traveling. I went to Australia and Southeast Asia, and that's when my drinking really took off. Obviously, the backpacker scene, lots of partying. I bought a camper van in Sydney and fruit picked my way around Australia and met some right characters. You know, at the time, I had an amazing time at the time of my life, but the drinking was obviously starting to pick up. I remember as well when I first got back from my first trip away, I started suffering really, really bad with anxiety and panic attacks.
Wow.
Yeah. So and that was and I would have been in my early 20s then as well. I come back from living the dream and to basically sharing a small room with my brother on a bunk bed, and and I just remember obviously thinking, right, you know, get me a drink. So that anxiety loop just got worse because you know, once you get sober curious and sober aware, you actually realize that the anxiety is feeding that alcohol as well. So I was constantly stuck in that anxiety loop, as we call it in the sober community. So come back, obviously started suffering with panic attacks, started drinking more and more heavy, and then I met my now wife and we went to South America. So obviously backpacking around South America, there was a lot of drinking and obviously drugs, you know, as you can only imagine in South America as well.
Yeah.
But but we absolutely love backpacking. We love traveling, and we did a third trip, and we went to India, and this really highlighted a problem, you know. And since I've become sober curious, all these sort of things of, you know, I've had these sort of light bulb moments, and I thought, hang on, wow, you know, it's sort of highlighted all these different moments in my life where I was drinking so much, but I thought it was normal because you normalize it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're
so we're-
traveling as well, because obviously it's kind
Exactly.
of part and
Well,
parcel,
I was just
isn't it?
thinking that it's like when you're traveling, it's like it's not real in a way. It's not like you're in a dream in a way. You're in a bubble that's not like you think. Oh, I'm going back to reality one day. So for now,
Yeah.
it's just whatever. Like I'm you know.
Yeah.
that-
Well, you're going to enjoy it, aren't you? And that's
Yeah.
what people turn to.
There's no repercussions in a way. There's no repercussions in a way because
Yeah.
you sort of live in this kind of what's the word? Where you're sort of like free spirited and like, you know, there's no real
Yeah.
yeah
No rules. Well, there's probably
no rules. Yeah, I mean you yeah.
you avoid them.
But yeah, so yeah, I'd imagine that I'd be exactly the same in that situation, and I would have just took full advantage of that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
Yeah,
I tried to do
it's
it
a good
anyway,
excuse.
yeah, I was living like a backpacker anyway over here. But
So what happened in India then? What was the like?
Yeah, so I just remember being in Delhi, and this was our third trip away, and we couldn't get any booze. We couldn't get a drink because it's not a big thing over there, is it?
Right. Cool.
Yeah. So, and it changes from state to state in India. So in northern India, you can't really get alcohol. It's not a big thing. Whereas in southern India, in Goa, in Kerala, it's very, very different. But in the north of India, we couldn't get a beer. And I remember trying to trying to find a bar or a pub, and we couldn't find one. And I'm thinking, hang on, why can't we get a drink? And then we found somewhere that sold us drink, and they sort of ushered us in, and we sneaked in the back. I remember, and then we were drinking in a corner out of these bags that you know, they were covering the bottle because it was like, look, it was frowned upon to drink alcohol, you know.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, God, what's wrong with this lot? What, you know, why didn't they want a beer? But you know, I look at myself now and I think, wow, you know, but you're just so stuck, aren't you? You know,
Yeah.
you're stuck in that cycle, in that loop, if you like. And that was definitely
a moment where you're like, whoa, okay, this is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, a realization. Do
you feel then before? So obviously you said you didn't hit rock bottom, but were you regularly drinking? Was it kind of weekday and weekends? Like, what was your kind of levels before you kind of made that decision?
So it's changed throughout my life. But when we were backpacking on that third trip, I remember when we got to New Zealand, we drank every day, and then so it was just a few beers on the evening, and then on the weekends we'd be on the gin.
Yeah.
And and then I remember we come back from backpacking. We bought a house in Bristol, and I remember clearly we'd always have plenty of a pack of Carling in the house, and I'd always have four cans a night. That was always my number.
Yeah.
And then it changed from the Carlins and the Fosters, you know, the weaker lagers, to the more premium lagers, you know, like the Heinekens, the Kronenbergs, etc. And then me and my wife were always like, no, you know, we don't want any of that piss water. We don't want any Fosters. We don't want, you know, we just want the premium stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and you sort of justify it, didn't you? Because you're working hard.
It's a nicer type
than hard.
Yeah, exactly. You treat yourself to the nicer ones,
well,
so
and you
it's
have
fine.
and you have to justify it, don't you? Because otherwise, there's too much conflict going on up there. So you you have to be okay with it, don't you? You make exceptions, and you think, oh, I'd be fine. I'm all right. You know,
exactly.
I've got this.
Yeah, and you always and looking at it now as well, you always compare yourself to someone who drinks more than you, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you always do that. You know, you never compare yourself to someone who only has a few beers a week or whatever. So you're constantly justifying yourself, you know, all these little things. Another moment as well that stands out for me was we went to bonfire night, I remember, and I always used to take a couple of cans with me or a 4-pack. And my brother-in-law looked at me and he said, Luke, you're drinking? And I was like, yeah. And he said, you said, God, it's any excuse, isn't it? But again, that was somebody else looking at me, that different perspective, like my son was looking at me. And I just laughed it off and thought, yeah, oh, whatever, mate, just shut up and have a beer. Do you know what I mean? As so many of us do. And looking back at it now, I just used to take pretty much any excuse, you know. I'd always have, you know, a can before we went out, before we went to an event, or I'd always make sure that there was a, you know, I was saying to my wife the other day about it, you know, if we were going to the zoo, if we were going to the circus, even with the kids, I'd always be looking, right, can we go in a pub on the way home? Is there a bar at this event? Just all these little things. And you're thinking, bloody, and you look at it now. There's a great analogy. Sometimes you've got to step out of the jar to be able to read the label. And
that's a good one. I've not heard that.
I think it's a really, really good one. And you sometimes you have. And when you can do that and you can step out and you can get that sort of bird's eye view and you can look at it through a different lens, if you like, it's like, wow, you know, so that's pretty much my my journey of,
one last question in the kind of sober curiosity space, because obviously, so you've had that moment with your son, which you know was I imagine a difficult moment but it kick-started that kind of sober curiosity journey. So
100%, yeah.
What kind of time period was that in between your son saying that to you and you making that final decision to go sober, and how did you find that period? Because I think that's can be quite a difficult period almost, because you start to toy with your mind and your emotions during that period.
So it was over a couple of years. I would say roughly two and a half years ago, I started getting sober curious and then sober aware. And there was a couple of other moments as well, actually, thinking about it. Moments where I had to drive. So within that 2-year period, I had to drive to a couple of events. We'd always go to Twickenham to watch the rugby, and one year we took the kids. So I said, right, you know, normally a day out at Twickenham is a big day out on the piss. When I was going with the family, we'd stay up in London for the weekend or whatever. And I said, and obviously I was starting to toy with becoming sober curious, becoming sober aware. So I said, right, I'll drive. And my wife was like, really? I was like, yeah, I'll drive. Why not? And I drove and I had such a good time. I actually remembered every kick of the ball. I remembered the meal we had before we went to the game, everything, you know? And I thought, wow, you can have a good time and not drink. It was a moment. And another good example as well is I love the darts. I love the PDC darts. And back in the day, we went to watch the Premier League. In Exeter, and of course we got absolutely hammered. You know, I don't know if you watch the darts.
Yeah, we do. We love the darts.
Yeah, it's a big party. And anyway, I watched my idol Phil Taylor play that night, and I was thinking about it a couple of months ago. I can't even remember him playing. I was so pissed, you know. And a good mate of mine always used to say, you know, a sign of a good night is when you can't remember anything. And you're thinking, really? But when you're stuck in that mentality, you know, that's it, isn't it? But anyway, so about a year ago, we went to would have been coming up to a year ago now. We went to Blackpool and to the Winter Gardens and watched the Royal Match play.
Nice.
And again, we were on holiday not far from when you guys are. We were on holiday in the Lake District.
Yeah.
And I drove down. I said to my wife, I said, no, I'll drive. She was like, what, really? And I was like, yeah, why not? I'll give it a go. And I drove, and it was amazing. I had such a good time, just like the rugby. Really enjoyed it. I remembered every game, and really sucked up the atmosphere. And I was like, wow. So it was those moments, those events as well that really, you know, showed me that you could still go and have a good time, remain sober, and actually feel all the emotions. When you're drinking, you're just numbing everything out, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, and you're not really there, you know. So you're there physically, but mentally you're somewhere else. Well, you know. Yeah. But so
the
those
darts
are two.
Is a big one as well, isn't it? The darts, like, because we've talked about that, haven't we? Saying like, oh, we'd like to go, and we've not been brave enough to like even get the tickets.
I've said I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
Like I just I just think it'd be too much drinking around me at the moment where I am. I wouldn't want to put myself in that position. I mean, I could be all right, but for now, I think
You're
I'll
not
just
there,
I'll watch it from the armchair for now. But so fair enough. I think that's and that must have been a really good. A really good sense of achievement for you as well, knowing that you can do it, a big confidence boost to know that you've done it now and you realize that actually, because that's something with alcohol, isn't it? It really does lower your ability to think that you can enjoy things without it. Like I've been terrible for it, like, and I still have to tell myself now, no, trust the process, because there's still things now where I think it'll be rubbish if I'm not drinking, but I know that I have to do it because I have to start like redoing all the damage that's been done.
We kind of say it's like you going round, aren't you, to like all the events or activities that you did with a drink and almost kind of collecting these experiences now as a sober person, and you're like getting your ticks in the boxes. So you do it, whether it's a gig, a wedding, a darts game, a rugby game, whatever those things are, you kind of have to go through the process of actually doing them sober to understand if you even like it, because like you've done so many things all your life with drink. Yeah, you're like, oh my god, I love it. Like, but do you? Like, how do you know? Really?
I used to love like just standing in a kitchen, just
for
hours.
Yeah.
Like, and now I just think I could, if the right people were there, I could probably do that for maybe an hour. Like, but what was like, I know how I was enjoying it. I was drinking a liquid that released an ungodly amount of dopamine and made me think that it was great.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So did you feel like
it's a social crutch, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You just. It's something that you're sort of hide behind. Now I talk to friends and family and clients about it. It's your social crutch, isn't it? It's your you think it's your secret weapon. You really do. If you have a drink, if you have pre-drinks, if you've got that drink, then you can go up and talk to anyone. I mentioned the confidence and the boost that it does give you. But when you get sober, and you really, really knuckle down, your confidence will come back. It's not going to come back straight away. Of course it's not. You're going to have to relearn all these other things that you've been learning throughout your adult life, but you've been learning with a drug in your system.
Yeah.
So you've got to relearn it again. I mean, especially if you start drinking at that sort of young age, a lot of my friends, they've never been out with us and not been drinking, so for them, to stop drinking and just give it up is just it's unthinkable, But I've spoke to you before about the whole identity shift, haven't I? Because that is essentially what it is when you go sober.
Yeah,
definitely, and it is tough because you get so much running through. I mean, you especially really struggled, didn't you, with like telling your friends that you wanted to go sober, not because of what they said, just because in your head of how you perceived yourself.
I had a sense of identity for myself that I felt taking the drink out of that damaged who I am and my identity, which
what you offered.
Yeah, which is just, it's so, to think back now on that is just so mad. Like that I was so nervous and worried about telling my friends that I wasn't going to essentially carry on drinking this drug for the foreseeable. And I was so worried about the judgment that I was going to get and that people didn't think I'd be who I am anymore.
And you didn't get any?
Yeah. No one really cared, which is a good thing.
But it's like this when they say like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's a little bit like that with the drink, because it's all fun. It's all fun and games until it isn't, and then it's almost like it's so easy to get into it because we've got all these slogans like it's a good time if there's wine there. It's da-da-da. You grow up watching all your favourite actors and actresses drinking. It's on every show. American Pie for me growing up as a youngster. That was like the next level. It's like I can't wait to go to house parties and drink myself stupid because that's what you do. And then by the time you get to the point where you're like, oh, I think I need to get out of this now. It's like, you've built up that much evidence that it's actually a good thing to do. It's so hard to then be like, is it a bad thing? Or am I just rubbish at this? Or like, is it something wrong with me? It's like, because everyone, if it must be so good, why can't I be good at it? Why is it doing this to me? And it's like, it's actually a drug. And exactly. That's what it does to some people. you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like I said in the beginning, when you're younger, you're doing it to have fun and to go out and party. But then, towards the end of so many people's journeys that find sobriety, when they're doing it to self medicate and they're drinking on their own and they're not doing it for the right reasons, then that's when you start getting sober curious, and then becoming sober aware, and then educating yourself on actually what that drug is doing to you. And I think that that's the time that you say, right, I'm going to flip the switch, I'm going to completely reframe it. And then you can literally start a new chapter of your life. You can do all those things that you want to do as a kid. Try that hobby, start a business, so many different things. The world's your oyster. And I think for so many people it does hold them back 100%.
Absolutely.
Try Waffle.
So moving on then to your coaching, because I think that's really nicely takes us into that. So you're a sober coach now, which is incredible. So how did you how has that part of your journey happened? How did you become a coach? How did you become a sober coach? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so coaching wasn't something that I always had planned, obviously. It's something that I grew into through my transformation. So roughly 2.5 years ago, at the age of 40, I just remember waking up one day and thinking, is this it? Am I going to live like this for another 40 years, approaching mid-age, having a bit of a midlife crisis, if you like. And I'd always been fascinated by the power of the mind, and realizing, and I always knew how powerful mindset work was. And if you can work on yourself and do the inner work, then everything else is going to be better. So I dove deep into personal development. I worked as an affiliate marketer, and then during that time I got coached myself, and this was completely life-changing. I then went on to do a coaching accreditation and qualified as a life coach, and started sharing my story. And the more I opened up and the more I did this, the more men that I spoke to and dads, they started reaching out and saying, yeah, that's me, and I am where you are, essentially. They resonated with my story. And that's when I knew that I could do more. And then if I could go sober, set an example, if you like, and then I could serve and help other people. So that's when I become a certified NLP master as well. And then I got that coaching qualification, and I built a framework around helping men, predominantly dads, break free from alcohol, reset their mindset, and start showing up as the fathers and leaders that they want to be. So, and they always say that if you coach and if you can teach someone, then you truly master it. And I've by going over like obviously over all the mindset stuff and reframing limiting beliefs and all this sort of stuff, I really feel like you do master it, and I really feel like it's becoming my purpose now. So and I'm and I get so much fulfillment from it.
I bet.
I mentioned before that I'm a plumber by trade, and if you fit a radiator or a boiler for someone, it's nice. But when
nice,
you can
nice to give the heat.
but when you can actually help someone become a better version of themselves, and then you see that ripple effect that it can give through NLP work, through studying core values, then it really is mind-blowing, and there's no other feeling like it, when you can help other people in that way.
Absolutely. No, I think it's a great thing to aspire to do. What a great thing to sort of put your time into helping other people. Just out of interest, what does the NLP stand for?
NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming.
I'm glad you asked, because I was also like, you're braver than me.
And is it neuro-linguistic? So is that the I'm going to try and explain it, but actually, no, I'm not. I'm just going to ask you to explain it.
So the neuro part of it is the way that we process thoughts and experiences.
Yeah.
The linguistic part is the language, how we take it internally and then give it out externally, essentially.
Yeah.
And then the programming is our habits, our patterns, our beliefs, and how they are developed over time. So with NLP and coaching, for example, I've mentioned before about shifting and identifying limiting beliefs. It's about reframing negative self-talk, breaking those addictive patterns, and then building empowering habits through different thought loops and stuff like that. So yeah, it's all of that inner work really, and changing your state of mind.
Yeah.
So that's such it's such an interesting shift, like, for you to go through. So, like, you were a plumber, kind of day-to-day plumbing life, I'm sure, and then to kind of really reshift your mind and kind of learn so much and go through this sober journey as well. Like, it's happened quite quickly. This is in the last like 3 years. So to kind of have taken so many steps forward is really like incredible.
And I feel like, and I don't know if you think this as well, Luke, but it's like, do you think that going through that learning phase before you went sober, so with the mindset coaching and the mind, do you think that massively helped you actually have the strength and the abilities and the skill set to then actually quit drinking like you have done?
100%.
Which is why you're teaching it in that way now.
I would have never have done it. I wouldn't have had the power, the mental strength and resiliency to go sober without doing all that mindset work and all that inner work on myself. No way. If you'd have told me 3 years ago that I'd never have a drink again after the age of 43, I would have laughed at you. Yeah, but from what I know now and what I've learned over the last couple of years, I can confidently say that I will never drink again. But you really should say, never say never. But from my journey from being sober curious to sober aware, and all the education and stuff that I've done, I don't feel like I will. But 100% agree with that. I would have never have been here, and I would have never have moved my family to the Isle of Man either, which was a massive thing. So over the last few years, there's been for us as a family, there's been many changes, and I think becoming sober is sort of the icing on the cake, really. And it's like I was saying earlier about starting out fresh, a new chapter. There's so much for us to look forward to now, because it's a completely different life for us now here in the Isle of Man.
Just feels like it's just completely opened just so many doors to you.
Yeah, and I think because obviously you'll have known so many people in Bristol who in a way knew they owed you, and by moving away and starting again, it's almost a way for you to have that freedom to sort of reinvent yourself without
Sure.
without pressure or fear of feeling like you may be being compared to your older self in a way and stuff like that. So I think
that kind of how you feel, like having
100%. I've been back a couple of times since, and obviously I got a lot of stick from my old friends about it, as you do, but like you were saying before, real friends will stick around. Real friends, if they're real friends, they'll accept you whether you're drinking or you're not drinking. And for me now, it's all about setting an example, and you can't, it's so when you've got all this information, it's so hard not to stand up on your box and start preaching to everyone, and but. So and you can't tell people, you can't say, look, I've been reinvented myself. I feel so much better. I think you should all stop drinking.
No,
blah blah blah. It's you can. These beliefs and these patterns, they've been built up over decades for many people. So, but I think if you lead by example and you can prove to people that this is a path that they could possibly go down, then people will start coming. Hopefully
absolutely, and I completely agree on that. It's just made me actually think of my sort of view on that is I'll never judge any of my friends or my family for drinking, or anyone. And I'll just leave the door open for if anybody ever does get to the point where I was at, where I want to stop. I'm always there if they want to chat about it, or if they want any advice on like how I've felt in the process and anything I've done. And that's all you can do, isn't it? You know, because some might never feel like they've got an issue and crack on. You know, if you can live your life and the way you enjoy yourself is to have a beer, then fine.
Yeah.
But I lived under the pretense that I was enjoying myself having a beer, when really it was for me it was just a destructive coping mechanism for stuff that I hadn't dealt with. And you know, that's why I had to make the move, and I'll be there with an open door for any of my friends or anyone online, or like, you know, we're doing this podcast, so that's sort of our mission with this, you know, just to be like, it
have
keeps
the door open, and it keeps us accountable, doesn't it? But that's the goal, is to help other people. So that it's a really nice way to
when I quit, or all the times over the years when I was having attempts at quitting, one of the things that really got me spurred up and really made me think, yes, I'm going to do it this time, was a good podcast or a good ebook or someone I can relate to, someone who I was like, oh, they're saying what I went through, and it really did help. Obviously, I slipped up quite a lot of times, but that was just through other reasons. I wasn't prepared or whatever. But that podcast and that ebook really, really helped, and I'm hoping that's what this can do.
Yeah,
and I imagine that's what your work will definitely do, and more with the coaching and stuff.
How do you find that a client typically finds you, or is it through kind of the work that you're doing through social media? Are you doing like what's that typical kind of client? Obviously looks like a male and a dad, but like how does that kind of work?
Yeah, so mainly through social media, like you said, through my content. Normally men that have been on a similar journey that I was in during my 30s. It's such a slow burner as well, drink, isn't it? It doesn't happen overnight. It slowly creeps up on you. And so people in their 30s and 40s who, again, on the surface, they look completely fine. They've got a job, they've got a family, and it all looks fine from the outside, but underneath they are struggling. They're drinking to cope with the stress, the pressure, the boredom, and they just feel disconnected from who they really are. And they're not the sort of guys that like wearing those labels either. Like I said before about, you know, the grey area drinkers. And they definitely don't feel like they're living up to their full potential. I've said before, haven't I, about how it's holding people back for sure. They feel tired. They've got guilt when they're hungover, especially on weekends, and they want more clarity, they want more energy, and they want to feel proud and you know, set a good example for their kids essentially. And what I do is help them get sober through breaking down those limiting beliefs, resetting their mindset, and hopefully rediscovering their identity, and then building a life that actually feels good to live, rather than being in that constant loop of, you know, looking forward to the working hard, playing hard, getting, you know, just surviving, getting to the weekend, instead of actually thriving and living a life full of fulfillment.
I think from me, coming from kind of a woman's perspective on this, is that I actually think it's harder for a man to make this decision, potentially because of more of that societal pressure.
That kind of lads.
Yeah, like lads. For a man, especially kind of 30s, 40s, 50s, to make that decision, it feels like there's so much more pressure than, say, the younger generation, because it's more than like the Gen Z kind of age. They're very much more accepting of the fact that if you're not going to drink, you know, they're much more health conscious already at a younger age. Whereas in kind of, you know, 30s, 40s, I do think there's that harsher societal pressure for, in some ways, for like, you know, lads, like you say, lads, like, oh, hey, let's go out and drink, that kind of thing. So I don't know, do you both feel that way? Like, and do you see that, Luke, in the conversations that you're having, in terms of, you know, when someone first comes to you, are they the kind of conversations that you're having with clients because of that pressure?
Yes, definitely. The biggest barriers that I find when guys, especially, are trying to go sober, is that sense of pride and their fear of being vulnerable. For many men, I think admitting that you've got a problem with alcohol feels like it's like they've lost control, and it's a sign of weakness. We were talking about this before, weren't we? About how society has ingrained that idea in us that men have sort of got to tough it out, like you just said, and keep their struggles hidden, you know, and not open up and not talk like women do a lot more. You know, and of course it's going to affect their health, it's going to affect their relationships, and it's going to affect their role as a dad as well. I think another good point on this as well. That's why the male, I believe that's why the male suicide rate is 4 times higher than it is in females.
So interesting,
So interesting because we just don't open up and we don't talk about our problems. You know, we bottle everything up, and then we feel like we got no, you know, we feel like we got no other option, and it's so sad. So if you can nip these things in the bud before, and I think drink has got a lot to answer for in this as well, and lots of different drugs, obviously. Then of course it's going to be massive.
It's that vulnerability space, isn't it? It's that being able to kind of open up and like actually talk about your emotions, talk about how you're feeling, and you know, actually say that it is okay for you to want to look after your mental health, and you want to look after your physical health, and that there's nothing to be ashamed of with that. But yet that seems so difficult still.
Yeah, I think it's so complex because it's like you might be able to get a guy that's going through it, and you might be able to sit him in a room or have an hour conversation with him, and he might feel comfortable to say, do you know what, I am struggling. Do you know what? I do need help. I wish I could do this. I wish my life was different. I wish I could knock the drink on the head. But the problem is, it's like it's having the belief that you can actually achieve the opposite of that. Like it's one thing to just be able to talk about it, but then you've got to actually be able to
enact it as well. Go out, like take yourself out of that room and that safe space, and then go into the world
in a world that's in a world that's trying to make you drink still, in a world that's not just trying to make you drink, but like in like a kind of a planned way. It's just the way it is. It's like everybody drinks for fun. Everybody like everything drinks all around. Marketing, they spend billions on making you believe that, like, you know, the funniest one is drink responsibly. It's like who? Like I think I've met about 5 people where I would say they probably drink responsibly. Like there's not many people.
Says a lot about our circles.
No, it says a lot about how alcohol affects people, and responsibility is not something that it provides. Like it just isn't. So it's just so funny, isn't it? Like drink responsibly. It's like who are you kidding?
It's the same with the gambling, isn't it? You know, gamble responsibly. It's like you're hiding behind that slogan. I mean, come on.
Well, we did tell you.
But another thing about that I'd like to mention as well, when guys are trying to open up as well, they find it so hard, so they'll have a drink as well. They'll say, oh, come out and have a drink and we'll have a talk about it, and then you're back in that loop anyway, and then the 1 turns to 2 pints, you feel great, and then 3, 4, 5, you can't remember what you're doing, you're chatting crap, you're repeating yourself. So when you really sit down and you're sober and then you have it out, completely different. So so many men are just stuck in that vicious cycle, in that vicious loop, and they can't get out of it. So it's a great point.
So what do you feel? What's like your piece of advice at the start of the journey to men when they are in that curious space? Is there are you sharing any light bulb moments that helps them get their light bulbs, like within those initial conversations?
Every client's different, but I would say don't wait until you feel ready. Act now and your mindset will catch up after. This year I had a holiday. For example, I went sober this year, early part in January, and I had a holiday booked for February where we go snowboarding. And straight away I was thinking, oh, I'll do dry January. I'll see how I feel, blah blah blah. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, but I've got a holiday coming up. I'm thinking,
there's always a reason.
Yeah, there's always a reason in there, guys. You know, there's always something. And this snowboard holiday again, it's a big piss up. And I could have easily, backed out of it. And then I had another trip to Twickenham with the lads watching the rugby as well. So there will never, and I did it, and kind of coming back from that holiday, coming back, walking out of Twickenham sober, it's an amazing feeling, a real sense of accomplishment.
Oh, wow.
So many men wait for that perfect moment to quit drinking, get help, and make the change. So that moment will not come. You've got to create it.
Yeah.
And you just got to say, right, enough is enough. Just let's just do it. Let's get that one decision, that one choice of being sober, mentally, physically, you're going to be better. You're going to be a better role model. You're going to save a shitload of money. You're going to have more focus. You have more time. You're going to have better sleep. You're going to remember everything. And, the list goes on. So, there's this is why I'm so passionate about it, because it's and I really do believe it is the biggest life hack, but so many people are stuck in those cycles and those loops.
Yeah.
I just think it's great that there's people like yourself and doing what you're doing as well, and kind of creating this space and hopefully increasing that awareness and supporting kind of especially because you focus on dads as well. It's just so lovely to be able, it's a nice kind of, I don't know, focus and being able to support dads and help them get empowered and help them be able to build better lives for themselves and the kids as well, which is incredible.
Do you know what? Yeah. Do you know what as well? There's plenty of people that would probably find it much harder to stop for themselves than they would for the family. It's more of a driver. And I imagine anyway. I can't obviously.
So.
I can't obviously speak. I can't obviously speak. I can't obviously speak from experience, but just from I have like read things and I've seen that and I've heard the sort of conversations around it, and I think that's something great that you're sort of tapping into and being able to help with, because that must help having that sort of focal point to, if sometimes they're feeling a bit selfish towards themselves, maybe that'll just keep them on the straight and narrow. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think touching on the dads as well, it's breaking that generational cycle as well. So, for example, obviously my dad drank very heavy. His dad drank, and then it was inevitable that I was going to drink heavy as well. So if I can pass that on to my son and stop that, and then he passes it on, again, it's that ripple effect.
Yeah,
it's breaking that cycle.
Exactly, that's what I was just going to say. Like, it's got to be someone that breaks it. So if it's not you, then it would be some potentially, or it keeps going, doesn't it? So it's someone's got to break it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's a great ambition, and it's a great journey to be on.
Yeah.
So hats go off to you.
And I say to dads as well, say to clients, life's hard. You got to choose your hard. If you carry on drinking, that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
There's going to be challenges there, all the hangovers, the regret, etc. If you go sober, it's going to be hard, but just get on with it, because it can really, really change your life, and not just your life. It's all the other people around you.
Yeah, and look at the positives that actually fall out of it, and the new experiences and the new hobbies and the new time that you spend with your family as well. Like, that's the bit that you focus on, isn't it, as you move forward?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Try Waffle.
So we've got kind of two more questions for you, kind of coming to the end of the podcast now. So firstly, like in your experience so far, has there been any kind of really key learnings from yourself? Is there any like books or podcasts or things that you've really lent on, I should say, as you've been going through this process?
So books, I listen to audiobooks all the time now. Whenever I've got a spare minute, whenever I'm working as a plumber, even on the commute, when I'm out walking, when I'm out running, I'm always, it's just constantly going in,
Well,
I absolutely love it. I never listen to the radio anymore. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, before you started on this journey that you've gone through, were you like that before? Have you always?
No, no, of course not. No.
Again, such a shift for you to.
It's such a transformation, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
every day's a school day.
Yeah.
So that's what I say to clients. I don't listen to the radio anymore. Don't watch the news, don't listen to the radio. I'm just got my headphones on, in my own little world, just working on myself.
Get your 10,000 hours in.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, become a master, 100%. So books, two big books in the self-development industry. Personal development for me is Atomic Habits. I don't know whether you heard of it.
We've got it under there.
Yeah, it's one of our books.
James Clear. You change your habits, you change your life. That's a hell of a book.
Great book.
Brilliant book. The Slight Edge by Jeff Alston, I think it is.
I don't know that.
Yeah, that's a very good one as well. It's all about making those slight little incremental steps and changes in your life. The 1% gains, etc.
Yeah.
That's a great book as well for self-development. But like you, I listen to podcasts all the time. Been absolutely obsessed with them for the last couple of years. But the best book in sobriety that I've read, that I mentioned to you the other day, is Alcohol Explained by William Porter. There are some absolutely golden nuggets in there. That's an absolutely brilliant book. If you're questioning sobriety, if you're sober curious at all, then I would say definitely, some of the stuff that he goes into in there. One of the big things for me was all about sleep. So when I used to drink heavy, especially on a weekend, I'd always used to wake up at 3 a.m.
Oh my God, I was exactly the same.
Always the same, full of anxiety. And in that book, he goes into REM sleep, which is where you regenerate, when you have dreams. And I think in the book he says there's 7 cycles of REM sleep on a normal night of sleep, but when you drink alcohol, on average, there's only a couple. So when I started becoming sober curious and reading all these books, I got a health watch, and it recorded my heart rate variability and my REM sleep. And my sleep, as I tell you guys, it's so much better now. I go into deep sleep, I go into REM sleep, I feel $1 million in the morning, I sleep all the way through the night. It's amazing. But so and I remember my heart rate variability when I used to drink heavy, it was the same as if I was ill, I was sick. And it was a massive wake-up call for me. I remember looking at it thinking, Jesus Christ, what am I doing to myself,
Yeah.
We've only got one body, we've got, we've got this one vessel, and, I'm not here to judge, but because I was stuck, I was just like so many other people, but we take it for granted. We really, really do.
Yeah.
And so that book, guys, I highly recommend that book.
We'll
that is an absolutely brilliant book.
Definitely give that a listen for sure.
The sleep thing I can relate to. I used to get it on my my Fitbit on my watch, and after like a heavy weekend where I'd have like a big do, it'd get to like the Monday, and I'd be trying to sleep, and I'd be waking up I'd be waking up like feeling like I couldn't breathe. I'd be waking up like, and it'd take me a few seconds to get my breath back, and that'd happen like about 4 or 5 times, and then I'd check my Fitbit, it'd be like like just so bad. But I usually be like, no, I'm still here.
Yeah,
it's like stupid. Just put it up, just dealing with it, because I didn't want to accept that I probably had to sort my life out. Like,
I think sleep and stress, and like stress is something that I'm thinking a lot about at the minute. And the stress that actually alcohol puts on your body, be it in the night or in the day, you're just not thinking about that when you're back in your little bubble, like going through that process. But it puts so much stress and strain on your body. And stress is one of the biggest killers out there. But you don't talk about it a lot, and that's
true.
a thing that can really drive it. So
well, I mentioned panic attacks earlier, didn't I?
You did.
And anxiety. I haven't. No word of a lie, guys. I have not felt anxious like this year since stopping drinking. And I used to, like you were saying, Rob, before, I was in a constant roller coaster before with the drink. Your body is constantly trying to stay in homeostasis, which is trying to regulate itself all the time. But when you're drinking, it's in a constant battle. It's exhausted all the time. But then when you stop drinking, you go sober, everything balances out. I think in the Alcohol Explained book, it tells you that after 3 months, all your vitamins completely they all balance themselves out. So after 3 months, that's when you feel, because I've noticed a big difference after 3 months of being sober as well. But there's all of these things that people just don't know about. So many people are just unaware, and they just drink and drink and drink because it's what everyone else does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's been a massive thing for me as well. It's the sleep and the anxiety, and I haven't had any anxiety. And I was chatting to my wife about it a few weeks back, and even she didn't know that I suffered that bad with anxiety. And she said, really? It's been that big a difference? And I said, yeah, really, seriously massive. And I effing hate anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, I've never, touch wood, I've never suffered with depression, but I've always suffered with anxiety. So that's been a massive, massive thing for me.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh,
And it
that's
only
great.
gets better as well, because how many months now are you into your sobriety?
I'm coming up to 5 now,
Coming
so
up to
almost
5, yeah. You
Yeah.
see, five for me was like quite a turning point, wasn't it? So for me, it only gets better. Like my first 5 months I actually found really difficult. Then I hit 6 and like something switched in me, and I think it just keeps getting better. So your sleep's gonna get even longer, maybe. It's only more good things to come.
But yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, I can't. It's the best thing I've ever done. So
Yeah.
it's,
Definitely.
Yeah, you keep leveling up, don't you? It just gets better and better, and you keep thinking, oh, surely I can't feel any better. You feel like a kid again. All the energy you've got.
Yeah.
And and that's why I'm so passionate about it, and I want to scream it from the rooftops and just try and get everyone, make them aware of what's possible.
Yeah, definitely. I think that kind of nicely leads us on to the last question, actually, because there are some very, very good bits about going sober. Absolutely excellent. But we've got a question that we're going to ask people, and it is, do you want to explain it?
It's called Something Bliss and Something You Miss. So we're going to ask all our guests as they come onto the show, because we like to, share the highlights and the lowlights of it.
The truth of it.
The truth, yeah. So something bliss is obviously something that you absolutely love about being sober. And something you miss is the obvious. What do you
if anything,
if you might be like, nope.
Well, so for something that I miss, wow, that's a struggle.
That's good though. That's great.
It is good. What do I miss about drinking? I guess it would be the excitement about before a big night out. Everyone in your group chats and stuff. We're all going on a big night out. We're gonna hit the town or whatever. But I'm at a point in my life now where that's I'm not really there.
Yeah,
exactly. Different chapter of my life anyway. And I think that's one of the big delusions around alcohol anyway. For me anyway, it was always the first couple of pints that were great, and then it just went downhill anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it's that tipsy feeling that was always the best.
Yeah.
And I think when you're drinking, you're always chasing that feeling again.
Yeah.
So let's have another drink, and then another drink, and another drink, and then before you know it, you're slurring your words. You can't remember anything. Taxi, kebab and home or whatever. So, it's a big illusion, in my opinion. Looking at it now,
no, that's fair. That's fair. Fair enough.
And something bliss.
Something bliss. Definitely the anxiety. For me, and it's the early mornings. Getting up early in the morning. It's the best time of the day. Obviously, you haven't been drinking the night before. You get up, you feel like you've got so much energy. I love my exercise. I've got a mindset routine now of meditation, exercise, journaling, a healthy breakfast. All before the rest of my family even get out of bed. So I go and do that, and then I feel I'm just ready to hit I'm ready for anything then. You feel after doing that and doing it every single day, you end up building up that bulletproof mindset. So it's been completely life-changing for me.
I'm doing some of that. I need to make it so that it's out. So I journal in the evening. I always journal at the end of the day and then read my book, and I do some yoga and I do some meditation, but I'm not consistent with it. And I feel like that's where I need to get That's where I need that bit.
You're definitely consistent with the journaling.
Yeah. I first started slipping because it was like a big light bulb at the start of this year because, again, the stress thing for me was getting too much. And I think that having that kind of routine and consistency helps support what we're doing as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough though. Obviously, everyone's busy, you've got things on, it's finding the time. But if you can set aside half an hour, every day to work on yourself. Self-care is so important. You can't you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to work on yourself.
Yeah.
And meditation and working on myself, doing the inner work. It has been completely life-changing for me.
Yeah,
amazing.
No, it's great. I think the reason that we wanted to do that, something bliss and something you miss, is because I think sometimes if you're trying to give up the drink or you're trying to get your mindset in that place, I think it's sometimes easy to trick yourself if you still feel like you've got a want for it, or like, oh, but I'll miss this, so I'm obviously not ready yet. And I think it's important to show that, no, you can actually still give up, reap the benefits from it, and still accept that there's little things that you miss about that life. But it's fine. It's fine to know that, but make that sacrifice. And it's doable as well. Everyone that gives up doesn't always just go, nope, don't miss anything. That's it. Like we do, it is a sacrifice. I miss quite a few different things about my, like, how it made me feel, and like, some of the friends that I probably won't have the same connection with now, like, they are things that I miss, like, but I'll not give it up for the good things that I've got in my life. And I think it's important to know that it's fine to have both things. That's something bliss and something you miss, and still be sober. So that's why that's why. And I think it's also fine to say, actually, I don't miss anything. Like, it's my life, like it was that bad for me. I don't miss anything. But
no, it's a great couple of questions, and I think honesty is always the best policy anyway. So no, great questions, guys.
No,
amazing.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for coming on, Luke. It's been so great having a chat with you and talking through it, and we really appreciate appreciate you coming on and being our first official guest.
It's got me really excited to just chat to as many people as we can about
help opening them doors. I think that's the big thing for me, is like having the opportunity to open doors, which you're clearly doing, Luke. So for anyone who's potentially interested as a result of listening to this conversation, how can they reach out to you? How can they find you?
We'll tag you as well. But if you want to give your socials or whatever, we can do that.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, guys. So if anyone wants to get in touch, it's the best place is probably Instagram. So the handle is Luke Jones Coaching.
Great.
So just come and connect, drop me a DM over on Instagram. But one of your podcast, guys, I know you're still in the early days, but it's absolutely brilliant. I've related to all of your stuff. I've been an avid fan since you begun, and I love the work you're doing. So keep up the good work, guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
Luke.
Thanks, Luke. Great. Well, we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Luke.
Bye.
No worries. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Try Waffle.
Eek. That was so good.
That was great. Thank you to Luke for coming on. I really enjoyed that. I'm so glad that we've finally got our first sober guest.
Yeah, and weren't it just great? Just really good conversation. So interesting.
It's got me very excited about speaking to as many people as possible about it and hearing different points of view.
Yeah, it's just so nice, isn't it? Because you actually do feel like you're part of a community. Like, there's just this real sense of
part of a movement.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's really cool.
And it's
it feels really special. But thank you so much, Luke. We loved having you on. We hope everyone enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, if you're interested in coming on a guest, please reach out to us. And if you have any questions or you want to share your sober story with us, please do. And obviously, give us a
follow, give us a like.
Join us on Instagram or TikTok.
Join us on Instagram.
And we'll see you next week for episode 11.
Get in.
Have a great week. Bye.
Bye now.
Try Waffle.